Baruchim haba and welcome everyone to a special edition of All Parsha on Parshas Shemini, the Chasam Sofer on Parshas Shemini. This week, I would like to share with you three different passages of the Chasam Sofer found throughout his writings. Let's begin. Shal Sechuvas Chasam Sofer Archaim Siman Pei Gimel. The response to the Chasam Sofer. Chasam Sofer is talking about a fascinating question where, unfortunately, a family had a child of special needs, and the child had to be sent to a home, a facility, which was the only way for this child to be properly cared for. And the problem was that the facility would be feeding the child non-kosher food. And the question is, we know, Chasam Sofer says, that it is asur lahachil holiest asuras l'ktanim. It is asur proactively, biyadayim, to feed non-kosher even to a child. So the question is whether leaving the child in a facility where you're not actively feeding them the non-kosher, but instead you're putting them somewhere and they will be doing so, is that considered being ma'achil biyadayim, causing them to proactively eat something which is not kosher? And the Chasam Sofer says that on a halachic level, according to the letter of the law, this would not be considered being ma'achel them biyadayim, to actively feed them non-kosher. But the Chasam Sofer says, therefore, when the child reaches 13, you would have to take them out, but until then, halachically, it would be permitted. But says the Chasam Sofer, nira la'aniyas daiti me ikar hadin. This is what seems to me according to the letter of the law. Umikal makom hi'idu kadmoinenu zal. Our earliest sages teach us, sha'al yedei ma'acholes asuros banaros, that through the consumption of eating prohibited food when one is young, metamtem halev, it clogs up the heart, it contaminates the heart, umoiled loy tevara, and it produces a bad character. Therefore, adayan ani omer mutav sheyiyah shoyte kol yamav. If this is the only way for this child to be cured, the Chasam Sofer says, it's better not to take advantage of such a remedy and have to put them in a situation where they're going to eat non-kosher food. Some poskim can point out that's only if there is an anticipation that they will one day be cured. If there's no anticipation, we don't have to be concerned that mutav sheyiyah shoyte kol yamav al yiyah rasha sha'achas lefnei hamakom. In other words, the concern of the Chasam Sofer is that the child may become mentally healthy, and the food that the child ate may cause evil characteristics. But if there's no anticipation of the child recovering, then even the Chasam Sofer would agree that it would be permitted. But nevertheless, we see this highlights the importance of the idea that consuming non-kosher food can create some type of evil tendencies and personality and character in the one who consumes it. As the Gemara in Yuma says, Daf Lamed Tes, commenting on the pasuk in this week's Parsha, Parak Yud Aleph, pasuk Mem Gimel, the pasuk says, "Al tishaksu es nafsheisechem b'chol hasheretz hashoyretz v'lo sitamu bahem v'nitmeisem bam al tikri v'nitmeisem ela v'nitamtem avera mitamtemes libay shel adam." A sin contaminates the heart of a person, and Masil Sisham writes that as much as this applies to any sin, this specifically applies when it comes to the consumption of forbidden foods, because by consuming the forbidden food, you ingest it, you digest it, and you reconstitute it to make it you, so that it has an extremely bad effect on a person's makeup and character. Now let's flip this in the other extreme. Because if consuming forbidden food creates an evil tendency in a person, imagine if a person would consume a food item which is sanctified and holy, and an item which is a mitzvah. And amazingly, the Chasam Sofer, in another tshuva, in Chelak Hey Siman Kuf Tzadi Vav, he writes about the importance of being careful in the mitzvah of matzah. Chasam Sofer says, matzah, the mitzvah of matzah, the night of the Seder, achilas, mitzvah saseh shel achilas matzah, mishumeres belel Pesach, eating shmura matzah, the night of the Seder, Hi yechida nesharas lanu. It is the only mitzvah that remains with us. Mikol mitzvahs achila shebachal Torah, of all the mitzvahs of eating in the whole Torah. We don't have carbon Pesach, we don't have kodshim, we don't have truma, we don't have meiser, and in our humble Sofer, Maggid Harakiah on Pesach Maimer Lamed, we explain, even though there are many times during the course of the year where it's a mitzvah to eat, it's a mitzvah to eat in the sukkah, it's a mitzvah to eat on Shabbos. However, the food item itself is not a chefza shel mitzvah. There's only one time a year that there's a mitzvah saseh d'oraisa to ingest an item that the item itself is a chefza shel mitzvah. So think about it. If by ingesting ma'choles asuros it contaminates the heart and it corrupts the character, think about what kind of tremendous elevation one will experience by eating the matzah, by consuming the matzah, by ingesting it, digesting it, and reconstituting it into the person that we are. So the mitzvah of achilas matzah is a unique opportunity to revolutionize a person's entire makeup. And if a person, maybe without knowing or realizing or with the proper education, at some point consumed a forbidden food, then the Chasam Sofer in his drashos, page Yud Tes, Divrei HaMaschal Hu, teaches us a very encouraging thought, that we know when a person does tshuva out of love, it transforms the sin into a mitzvah. So if somebody only does tshuva out of fear, it downgrades the offense from intentional to unintentional. But if somebody does tshuva out of love, then it transforms the offense into a mitzvah. Says the Chasam Sofer, if somebody consumed forbidden food and they did tshuva out of love, it is transformed to a zechus, like eating the carbon Pesach in Yerushalayim. So the Parsha Shemini talks about the detrimental effect of forbidden food. We see from the Chasam Sofer how the extent that we have to go to stay away from forbidden food, and on the other hand, it gives us great insight into what kind of elevation we will experience in the mitzvah of achilas matzah, haba aleinu l'taiva. Wishing everyone a wonderful Shabbos.